Hi, my name is Tiffany and I'm a writing consultant at the Wingspan. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the writing process and some strategies for you to improve these skills. The Writing Center is part of a larger center for learning and writing support. We offer support services in the 4 different categories listed on the slide. Feel free to pause and take a look at the services that we offer. Today we're going to spend a little bit of time reflecting on why and how we write. Then we will talk about the writing process and its stages: pre-writing, research, drafting, revising, editing, and doing it all over again. Writing is a process that is individual, meaning that everyone's practice and process is different. Writing is also non-linear, meaning that the circle is not exact. You may research, draft, research again, revise, draft, etc. Writing is also flexible. Aspects of this process might take more effort or less effort depending on the genre of the assignment that you have. For example, research might take up more time in a science class than in creative writing. Finally, writing is social. Writing is often considered an isolated activity, but you can work with others and talk with others at every stage of the writing process. So pre-writing is your chance to play with ideas and evidence. It is going to feel and look different in different fields. For example, you might need to do an experiment or survey as part of your pre-writing stage for some fields, and read and take notes for others. In all cases, reflect on the directions of the assignment sheet. What is your instructor asking you to do? Who's the audience, and what is the goal? During the pre-writing stage, it's often a good idea to come up with a preliminary thesis statement. This can and should change later, but it will help direct your research and argument. Chances are your instructor has pre-writing activities built into the assignment, so use those to your advantage. On the slide here are some examples of strategies for pre-writing. So we have free writing, outlining, questioning, talking to someone, thinking out loud, and drawing. Feel free to pause here and take a more in-depth look at what these mean. Now let's talk about research if that's needed in your writing. First, determine what you need based on your pre-writing and the assignment. This is a great time to double-check the assignment as well. You will need research for every paper, but for many of them, you will. Perhaps you need to learn more about the demographic you're studying, or you need to research the culture of medieval theater tropes. Second, determine how much time you have and how much time is needed to do the necessary research. Research can take much more time than you think, so make sure to budget your time for finding sources, reading them, and analyzing them. This can be one of the longer steps in the writing process, so it's important to manage your time well and to make sure you have enough sources to support your point. There are also steps in the research process. You need to create research terms, find sources, evaluate them, read them, and think critically about them. Your professor and the librarians at the KU libraries are great people to talk to about finding and evaluating sources. Today, we're going to focus on understanding your research material. This slide illustrates some questions that you might ask yourself when you're reading a journal article. As you're reading, think about how this material can apply to your paper. Think about the audience for your paper. Why would they care about this source? What evidence does this source provide? Does the source agree with what you know and have read before? And if they're the same, what new perspectives does this provide? If they're different, what makes them different? What evidence do they provide? In summary, as you're reading, take notes of the ways that the source could be used for your paper and how it connects to other sources. Often, it's a great idea to take notes while you're reading. So on to the next step. Like all writing, drafting is different for different people. Some people prefer to work out their ideas while writing, and others prefer outlines. Outlines are a helpful way to make sure that your writing is organized well and incorporates your research, new ideas, and argument. They can also show you where you have plenty of information and where you might need to spend a little more time. When you're looking at your outline, it's important to ask questions. Some helpful questions include: does this evidence help support my thesis? Is there enough evidence to support my points in this paragraph? Is there too much? Think back to what you did in the pre-writing stage. What is your thesis or argument? Are you still making the same points? And what about those terms you got from free writing? When you're writing each paragraph, also keep in mind how you're presenting your evidence. A good rule of thumb is to follow the structure, evidence analysis, and then interpretation. First, present the evidence from your research, then analyze it to show what it means to you, and then interpret it and tell the reader why this evidence matters to your argument. Throughout the writing process, try giving yourself about 4 hours per week or whatever works for your schedule. Schedule your writing time and strictly follow your schedule. It's okay if you have some writer's block. Sit down and start to write. If you should be revising and you feel stuck, try some free writing or talk it out with someone. Pay attention to your body's rhythm of work. If you know that you don't work well in the morning, schedule your writing time for the afternoon or the evening. If you know that you study well in the library, then try writing there. If you work best under pressure or tend to procrastinate, then set some deadlines for yourself. Schedule smaller segments of writing time, and your brain will thank you. You could try a popular method of breaking up your time, the Pomodoro method. For this, you work undisturbed for 25 minutes, and then take a 5-minute break and repeat. Write a little every day if you can. Write before email, Instagram, or watching the news, etc. You can do this just for the drafting stage or for the whole project. Revision or re-seeing our work. When we revise or re-see our work, we think about the big picture aspects of our paper, such as the content, the argument, the organization, and support. If you revise one element, you might have to revise another one to keep the logic. When you're revising your paper, focus on these big picture elements first, and then focus on smaller details like editing. Make sure your paper makes sense and response to the assignment is a very important thing. Additionally, if you end up deleting a sentence because it isn't supported, then you don't need to edit a deleted sentence. Revision can often be a difficult part of the process because you can see the finish line, but it's also important to make sure that you do it right. Remembering the important aspects of revision from the last slide, content, argument, organization, and support, rereading your paper is crucial, so here are some tips to help revise. Taking a break from the paper can help you see like if it is new. With some distance, you can find some new connections or notice that something isn't quite clear. And if you're someone who likes outlines and seeing everything laid out in front of you, then you can create an outline for your paper. Just like in pre-writing where you create an outline to see what you have and don't have, an outline after writing your paper can show you how each paragraph or section addresses your topic. Having some outside input is also an option. Ask a classmate or friend if they can look at your paper. Since you're not just writing for yourself, an early reader can help you figure out what's looking good and what needs more attention. This is also a great place to double-check your assignment. You've gotten all your ideas down on paper, so make sure that you've checked all those boxes before you go any further. If you're missing something, take a step back and add it. While revising looks at big picture issues like how your paragraphs are fitting together and how your evidence addresses your argument, editing looks at smaller issues like transitions, word choice, and grammar. Editing should be your last step in the process. This is when you make everything neat, clean, and ready to be turned in. Here are some tips and simple things that you can do to help the editing process. Reread your paper. Just like the revising process, try to take a few days away from the draft and then come back to it with fresh eyes. You can also print out the draft and read it slowly, marking it up with anything you feel is off or could be better. You can also start at the end and read sentence by sentence. This way it won't sound like how you wrote it, and you might be able to catch smaller errors that you wouldn't notice otherwise. You can also try reading out loud. This way you're hearing the words instead of seeing them, and you might hear something that doesn't sound quite right, or notice a grammar error or an awkward transition. You can also learn what areas you usually struggle with, like run-on sentences, and then review the paper just looking for that one type of error, and you are more likely to spot it when you look for one. You can also use resources like Word's Grammar Checker, but keep in mind that some tools may not be allowed by your professor, like Grammarly or AI. So make sure you know and ask before using something that's prohibited. Remembering that writing is non-linear, you probably won't do all the steps in this order, and you might have to jump around. So try out new strategies and figure out what works best for you as a writer. Every assignment will have a process that looks like this, even though you might approach them in different ways. Remember what works for you and what you've learned from other assignments in the past. Always, you are not alone in this process. Any stage of the writing process can be social, and we are here to help you through it. You can make writing consultations in person or online. We also have writing guides. And you can always talk to your professors and your peers. That way, the writing process don't have to feel so daunting. If you want help scheduling each of these steps, you can visit the assignment planner on the KU Writing Center website. You just input your start date and the due date in the form, and it will give you a step-by-step schedule for when to work on each step of the writing process. So that's all I have for you in the presentation. If you have any questions about the writing process or anything we talked about today, you can schedule a consultation with our writing consultants at writing.ku.edu. If you do come and see us, we are located in the Anschutz Library on the 4th floor. Thank you!